Today, I'm going to unlock a bass superpower for you that is so simple, it may well have been hiding in plain sight under your fingers all along. And this is all to do with the fingers, specifically the fingers on your fretting hand. In my case, I'm right-handed, it's my left hand, and we are, of course, talking about fingering. It's something I have to credit the majority of my success when it comes to technique, when it comes to fluidity on the instrument. I have to credit really focusing in on fingering from a very young age, from an early part in my career. I have to credit that with where I am today and the ease with which I play the instrument. We're going to use the shape you just heard. It's an exercise. It's one of the studies from my new book, The Bassist's Book of Scales and Arpeggios. The pre-sale is happening right now. The book is available for pre-order below. It's linked in the description of the video. Signed physical copies bundled with a digital version of the book are available from now until November 26th, 2024. The book launches on November 27th. And it's scales, it's arpeggios, it's broken chords, it's an encyclopedia of Western harmony. And of course, I had to add some etudes, some studies, a way to get some of those scales, maybe new sounds to you, get them in to your playing. Now, perhaps this sound that I'm using today is a new sound to you. It's the harmonic major. What is that, you say? Here in C major, you're probably used to this sound, a straight up C major sound. And if you've maybe heard the word harmonic before, but perhaps only in the context of harmonic minor, that sound you are maybe familiar with could be. But if we take that harmonic minor scale, turn the minor third into a major one, you get harmonic major. And that's the sound we're working with today. It's one of the exercises from the back of the new book, and it kind of outlines that sound and gives us a bunch of options for fingering. I've included, for the first time ever in any of my books, fingering for every single note in the book. One of the toughest challenges I faced with that was actually picking just one fingering for a scale because there are so many options. Now I want to dive into how we make those choices, how we find the best fingering, whether it's a scale, a shape, a phrase, a line, no matter what it is. How do we find that best fingering, and how does that benefit us in the long run? What does that process look like? For me, it's trial and error. It's taking the notes of the idea, which in this case are, and then trying to find the most fluid way to play that, where it feels most comfortable under the fingers of the fretting hand. I'm going to give you the fingering I chose to include in the book. I think this is the most comfortable one. It could differ for everyone watching. Different size of hand. Maybe your bass is strung slightly differently. I'm using a standard 4-string bass here, and I've chosen 1, 3, 4. So we get the notes C, G, and D. Then I'm fingering 1, 3, and 4 with my fretting hand. Then we get up to our major third, our 10th here. I'm contacting that with the first finger. Our biggest stretch of the exercise probably is that major third. I'm using my 4th finger to get up to the G sharp or the A flat. And I'm coming down 2, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 2. Then a little bit of a shift. 1, 4, 1, 4, 2. And even with this, the fingering I consider to be the most economical, to be the most comfortable for me, the most practical, shall we say. There's also a caveat to that, because what are we doing? Are we simply playing this line? Great. Is that a performance? Is that the end of it? Do we go nowhere else after that? Okay, then fantastic. We could end on our second finger. That makes complete sense. Maybe we want to repeat that idea. Maybe we're using repetition in our practice routine to play the same idea in the same key multiple times. That's something I always recommend. Practicing in 12 keys, but each time you play the idea, maybe you play it twice or 4 times before shifting to the next key. So we want to get back to our starting point, and our starting point was not the second finger. So this is the type of small detail I really encourage you to look into when it comes to figuring out what works the best. not just what's the most comfortable for you, but also what's the most practical in terms of where you're going next. So we're starting off on the first finger. Most comfortably, we can finish on our second finger right there. But if we want to play the idea again, it doesn't feel great to start the idea from the second finger. So we want to be conscious of ending on that first finger if we want to repeat the phrase in the same key. So there I played it 4 times. Finally, I ended on the second finger. Our next step is to see, does that fingering work in all 12 keys? Does it work in all areas of the instrument? Obviously, physics dictates that the frets are slightly closer together, the higher up the neck you get, and definitely more challenging and wider apart the lower you play in the instrument. So there are going to be subtle changes you make based on your fretting hand's location on the instrument. Let's take a quick look at what that sounds like, looks like, feels like in 12 keys. I'll play it just once in each key, and I'll go through a few of them. I'm moving in the cycle of fourths, so every time I change key, it's going up a fourth. So we start off in C. We go to F. We go to B flat. E flat. Now we go to A flat, and this is the first time we're getting a significantly wider stretch. So let's see if the fingering holds up. Let's see how much we have to adjust. There's a little more tension in the shoulder, perhaps in the fretting arm. So we have to pay extra attention to being even more relaxed when it comes to that, so we don't build up tension or injury at all. So it's not impossible to play it down there with that wider stretch with the same fingering, but it was definitely more comfortable to end on the first finger, even though I've been ending on the second finger mainly in the higher part of the neck. So it definitely felt easier to go from 4 to 1 there rather than 4 to 2, especially with the way I hold the bass up on the left knee. My left leg is slightly raised. That's my preferred seating position, more in the style of a classical guitarist. Now if we go up another fourth, that feeling completely changes and it's actually more comfortable to end on the second finger. So as you can see, we're talking about very subtle changes. The second finger, first finger, they're right next to each other on your hand, and you might think, oh, well, just use the same thing all over the place. That's what's simple. But no, I really encourage you to dig into the details, the nuance, the depths of your abilities, and the depths, more importantly, of all the options. Let's look at a couple of different fingering options that I did not include in the book, but could be equally as valid. And not only that, they could work out a different muscle. They could work out a different problem. Maybe you want to work more on position shifts, so you can take that same idea, which stays basically in the same place. There's nothing huge in terms of position shifts there, but you can take the same idea and make way more of a challenge out of it by creating more position shifts than perhaps were originally intended. Maybe we'll start the same way, simply because the range denotes that we must get up to that top note. But when we start coming down, I was going to the third finger, 11th fret of the A string there before. Why not slide down? Stay on the D string, 6th fret. Then I'm getting into some string skipping stuff, a little more challenging for our picking hand. I'm also getting into barring, or at least having to move the first finger from the root to the 5th on the fretting hand. Just a few more challenges using exactly the same exercise. And to give you an idea of the difference between the two back to back, here's our original. Very few shifts. Here's our new one. Definitely more of a challenge, kind of have to think about that more than I would like, and that gives me great information. If I'm thinking about it, it means it needs more work. My goal is to always be completely free of thought when I'm playing, so if ever a thought comes up, I'm like, oh, I just need more work on this. I need more repetition. It's more of a challenge than the original one. Fantastic. That is great information. When I can't do something, that is priceless information because it tells me exactly what I need to work on. Hopefully that concept of very subtle changes in your fretting hand position and fingering options is something that can really open up material you've already been working on, things you know so well, just by changing it, just by creating some position shifts, creating some more challenges in that will absolutely unlock this thing that I consider to be kind of an unsung superpower for us as bass players. Again, we've been working from material from the new book, the Basis Book of Scales and Arpeggios. It's available for pre-order below. It is an encyclopedic collection of all things scalistic and arpeggiated, plus an entire section dedicated to stuff like this, to etudes and exercises and studies, to get this stuff into your playing and to challenge you to be a better bass player. I really appreciate you spending some of your insanely precious time with me, talking about music, learning about the bass. I'll see you all soon.